Thank you very much for coming tonight. As you know, this event tonight is, I would say, it's a very exclusive event. You don't get event like that all the time, especially we have tonight Dr. Scott with us. Dr. Scott, who is uh, the creator of the Waterfall Technique and pioneered evidence-based essential oil therapy, which combine the art of ancient healing with modern science and maximize the benefit of essential oils. So welcome, Dr. Scott, tonight. And we have also Dr. Brannick, who is also an MD, board certified family practitioner. He's also trained in complementary medicine and the VP of clinical initiatives and the chairman of the advisory board for doTERRA. So we are very blessed tonight to have these two top doctors in the world and leading figures in the field of essential oil that's going to talk to us about essential oil, especially how we can use that in our practice as nutrition therapists or naturopath. I know we're not aromatherapists, but it's very important that this is something you can add to your practice and help so many people. I just want to acknowledge two other people tonight, which is Matt Hall. Matt Hall is a doTERRA leader. And he's been the one who's been really helping to help to make that event happen tonight. And I would also like to acknowledge Paulette, who is 3 o'clock for her tonight. She's in Hong Kong, and she's one of the team leaders in doTERRA, and she's also been helping to make this event happen. So without any further ado, I would want just to ask Dr. Scott just to get us started. Thank you, Dr. Scott.
You bet. It's my pleasure to be here. It looks like I need permission to share my screen.
Oh yeah, I'll make you co-host. Yeah.
It looks like I just got it. So let's see.
Yeah, you should be okay now.
Okay. All right. So I appreciate the opportunity to share my insights with this group of fellow naturopaths and functional nutrition practitioners. I'm truly honored to have this platform to discuss essential oils in a more nuanced and in-depth manner than I typically get the privilege of doing. As clinicians, we understand the importance of evidence-based medicine and the need to approach our patient care with holistic perspectives. This setting allows us to delve deeper into research, explore a wider range of applications, and discuss conditions that are not normally permitted when we speak to us on the stage or to groups of wellness advocates and customers of doTERRA. When we engage with the public or communication, our communication typically has to be adhere to very specific guidelines and regulations. However, within this setting, I feel like I'm going to have a little bit more freedom to engage in more open dialogue and really kind of delve into the therapeutic potential of essential oils. So I first like to start out by kind of explaining why I kind of turned to essential oils and spent much of my professional career using and researching them. Aromatic essences have been used throughout history for a variety of reasons. And, you know, like I said, I've dedicated a lot of my professional career to studying them. They have unique properties that make them what I feel are ideal natural solutions, such as the ability to bind to multiple target proteins and cell receptors due to the distinctive shape of some of their constituents. They have privileged access to tissues like the brain and the lower respiratory tract because of their size and molecular weight. They have inherent ability to act on multiple targets simultaneously and collectively because each essential oil contains from a dozen, like maybe on a wintergreen level, might only have a dozen constituents, to on the other opposite spectrum, some of our floral oils like a Roman chamomile or a rose that can have hundreds of constituents in each essential oil. And because of that, that gives each essential oil the possibility of having synergistic, additive, and antagonistic or buffering effects within that single essential oil. And of course, they have a lipophilic nature, meaning they are attracted to fats. And since each one of our cells is surrounded by a lipid membrane, they are attracted to those cells and can have interactions with not only outside the cell at the receptor level, but inside the cell and work with specific organelles. Lastly, research shows that they can act as carrier molecules. What I mean by that is that they help other actives penetrate through the skin or be absorbed in the gastrointestinal tract, leading to improved distribution to cells and tissues and also enhancing their effectiveness. When essential oils were observed in a simulated digestive tract, which some of you may be familiar, it's called the CACO2 assay. And in this simulated digestive tract, an interesting finding was observed. It revealed that certain essential oils or their individual constituents absorb more rapidly than others. And these same essential oils possess unique characteristics that permit them to increase the absorption of other essential oils and therefore enhance their effectiveness. So you can kind of think of these essential oils as synergizers that make other essential oils work better. In this first evaluation that was performed in the CACO2 assay, it was determined that lavender, lemongrass, ylang ylang, ginger, and balsam fir essential oils all had this unique property and acted as synergizers. We at doTERRA recently repeated this study and we tried this out with a blend of essential oils and observed interactions with nutrients. What the research proved was that essential oils can actually increase not just essential oils, but the bioavailability of key nutrients in the digestive tract, including vitamins, minerals, and polyphenols. Today, I'm going to focus my discussion on a key group of 10 essential oils that can be used as solutions for a variety of common ailments. I'm doing this because often people look at just the vast or the broad amount of essential oils that are available, and they just get deer in the headlights look like, where do I even start with so many essential oils available to me? But the great thing is that when you start with just this group of 10 essential oils, you can actually accomplish quite a bit from a clinical perspective and address many of the common things that some of your clients or your patients might be experiencing. So I'm going to focus on lavender, lemon, peppermint, frankincense, tea tree, oregano, air, and deep blue, on guard, and zengest. So I'm going to go into a little bit about how they're used and some of the research behind each one of these essential oils. Now, lavender is probably the most well-researched essential oil and has so many uses that it's nicknamed the Swiss Army knife of essential oils. One of its most researched properties in clinical studies is its ability to reduce anxiety when it's ingested. This same research has shown that it helps to reduce depression and PTSD. So we could say that lavender really helps combat maladaptive HPAA responses. It's often used alone or in combination with other essential oils such as clary sage and marjoram to reduce dysmenorrhea. So that's another thing that is just so common in our young ladies and young adults, and even our older adults that are still during their fertility years. Lavender is also commonly used to help promote quality sleep when it's diffused. And this mechanism that it's able to help support healthy sleep is partly by increasing natural melatonin production. Interestingly, clinical research shows that it regulates breathing while sleeping as well. So something that may be beneficial for those who experience sleep apnea. When applied topically as part of a massage or inhaled, lavender helps to reduce pain such as knee osteoarthritis, labor pain, and even diabetic neuropathy. And preclinical research shows that lavender triggers production of type 1 and type 2 collagen and increases skin cell activity to aid wound healing. So many people know that lavender is frequently used for things like skin restoration. And this kind of tells us why, in that preclinical study showing one of its mechanisms is increasing the collagen production and skin cell activity to promote that wound closure and healthy cells in the skin and tissue. Inhaling lavender essential oil also minimizes menopausal symptoms such as hot flashes and poor sleep. So it really is something that this can be a friend from somebody who's just beginning menstruation all the way into menopause and even post menopause, because of the vast amount of cellular targets that lavender works on, as well as the properties that it contains. So although we could spend really all day discussing lavender essential oil research and benefits, the last one I'll mention is the ability to encourage healthy blood pressure. Whether used alone or with other oils like ylang ylang. I personally have seen it work very effectively when you combine lavender, marjoram, and ylang ylang. So that's a combination that I'm frequently recommending to the patients that I see. Research suggests that despite lemon being mild, it has activity against microbes, making it a good option to cleanse surfaces. Another study showed that when lemon was diffused with silver fir essential oil, the combination actually diminished the concentration of airborne microbes in a hospital. So that's obviously going to be positive to reduce the number of microbes that are in the air and in our environments. So something that we could consider using in our clinic and in our homes to keep the air as clean as possible. Preclinical research showed that inhaling lemon essential oil actually balances mood, and it does so by influencing serotonin, GABA, and dopamine activity. So it's pretty broad in its activity in these neurotransmitters. Interestingly, clinical research showed that lemon affects autonomic nervous system activity based on the needs of the individual in their current mood state. It increases both sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system activity in healthy people, but when it is inhaled by people who are depressed, it increases only parasympathetic activity back to a normal range. A few clinical studies have verified that inhaling lemon can reduce pregnancy-associated nausea and vomiting. So it makes this is a good non-invasive and safe option for women during pregnancy. The primary constituent in lemon, limonene, supports healthy metabolism and aids detoxification of potentially harmful compounds, according to the preclinical research. Limonene is also considered a solvent and can help reduce grease and sticky residue, making it great for scrubbing dishes, particularly when combined with baking soda. And clinical research says that that same limonene used as a solvent can help to dissolve gallstones, so something to keep in mind. Peppermint is also a very versatile essential oil, but it is probably best known for its ability to reduce pain when it's applied topically and to aid digestion when it's ingested. Both of these properties are largely based on its high menthol content, which is known to be a smooth muscle relaxer. It also interacts with cold receptors on skin, on the cells, the surface of cells, to reduce pain when it's applied topically. Multiple studies show that peppermint helps to manage things like irritable bowel syndrome when it's ingested in capsules at between 0.2 and zero point 0.4 milliliters. So if you're going to equate that to drops, that's roughly 4.5 to 9 drops of essential oil. And that's typically taken 3 times a day in adults. And they've used this also in clinical research in children as young as 8 years old, and they'd give them half of that dose. So it would be 0.1 to 0.2 milliliters 3 times a day instead. So you're more like 2.5 or 2.25 drops to roughly 4.5 drops in children. Inhalation of peppermint reduces nausea and vomiting, similar to what lemon does. And I've personally found it to pair well with lemon essential oil. So you can inhale both of them in combination to have that effect. Inhaling peppermint also enhances attention and speed and accuracy while you're performing clerical tasks. Peppermint oil cleanses the oral cavity, and that was shown to be better than chlorhexidine, which is considered the kind of the gold standard for oral cleansing. And by doing so, it may help reduce cavities or caries. Ingestion of peppermint may improve athletic and physical performance by enhancing respiratory function, grip strength, and jumping ability, which is really interesting because when the clinical study did this, it was just a drop in about 500 milliliters of water that they took before they participated in this activity. And I would have expected it to have some effect on respiratory function because of just the way that peppermint works in the respiratory system. But it was interesting that they also noticed that they were able to have more strength and just athletic ability. They were able to jump farther. A clinical study also found that ingesting peppermint essential oil favorably improves the gut microbiome by enhancing ratios of bacteria and improving populations of important probiotics. Specifically, Collinsella bacteria increased and the Firmicutes to Bacteroidetes ratio improved. So it overall just had a good positive effect on our gut microbiome, which is another thing to keep note of because so often we think that essential oils are potent and they're just going to indiscriminately kill good bacteria and bad bacteria within the digestive tract. But the preponderance and the majority of evidence actually does not support that conclusion. It actually supports that they are selective in their nature and have the capacity to target the pathogenic bacteria more than the commensal and beneficial bacteria that we want in our GI tract. doTERRA provides a unique frankincense essential oil with 4 species combined that creates a unique chemistry and leverages the benefits of each species. Multiple preclinical studies and a clinical case reports suggest that frankincense actually supports healthy cellular function and a healthy cell life cycle. A recent study evaluated doTERRA frankincense in several assays and assessed which constituents have the greatest ability to bind to target proteins on cells to provide these effects that they observed or these properties. The researchers concluded that doTERRA frankincense acts as an antioxidant, has antimicrobial properties, and supports a healthy inflammatory response. Interestingly, it was very minor constituents within frankincense that had the highest binding affinity for the molecular targets involved in these properties that were observed, suggesting that there's a synergistic activity from the whole oil. Preclinical research showed that topical application of highly diluted frankincense essential oil actually reduces stress and corticosterone levels in sleep-deprived rodents. The oil countered the effects of a lack of sleep and promoted healthy antioxidant activity. Another preclinical study suggests that frankincense influences immune cell maturation to promote immune tolerance and avoid overactive immune responses. So this is one frankincense essential oil that I really like to use with individuals who have some sort of autoimmune activity that's going on to help promote a balanced immune response in those individuals. Tea tree has a long history of use in Australia, and its use has expanded globally because of its proven benefits. One common reason to use tea tree is for acne, and it's used topically quite frequently for that. But clinical research also shows that it can be used topically for warts. So that's another way that we could use it. Multiple clinical studies have demonstrated that tea tree essential oil reduces the amount of pathogenic bacteria in the mouth and helps prevent plaque accumulation. So tea tree is not one that tastes great, but you could mix just a trace amount of it, with your toothpaste or put a drop in your mouthwash, and it can experience some of those benefits. Tea tree oil shows broad spectrum activity against a variety of microbes, and this is why it's also included in hand washes. Some research even suggests that it can be used to cleanse wounds and to manage toenail infections. So there's a lot of various uses for tea tree essential oil that makes it valuable to have on hand. Oregano is a potent essential oil, and it's known for its immune support and ability to help eliminate pathogenic organisms. Research shows that it is potently antimicrobial, and more importantly, clinical research shows it promotes targeted cleansing in the GI tract without causing dysbiosis. It may seem counterintuitive, like said earlier, but its primary constituent, carvacrol, actually improves the gut microbiome and favorably impacts by increasing the relative abundance of beneficial bacteria and reducing harmful bacteria simultaneously. It also helps regulate intestinal barrier function, so it may be a helpful option for those experiencing leaky gut, which is a significant amount of the population. Shifting to its immune support, oregano partially activates the human aryl hydrocarbon receptor, which is significantly affects immune activity in the gastrointestinal tract. And that's according to a preclinical study that was performed. Another preclinical study also suggests that it promotes the development of regulatory T cells and modulates T cell differentiation to help regulate immune and inflammatory responses and processes. doTERRA Air is actually a blend of essential oils used to open and clear the airways. It contains laurel leaf, eucalyptus, peppermint, tea tree, lemon, cardamom, and ravensara. Many of these essential oil are rich in the powerful constituent 1,8-cineol, or you might also see it written as eucalyptol. Preclinical research shows that this 1,8-cineol relaxes the airways and accelerates mucus clearance from the airways, and then finally reduces inflamed airways that are inflamed because of allergens in the respiratory tract. So it really has a significant impact on respiratory health and respiratory function in general. An interesting fact about 1,8-cineol is that although it's most known for its respiratory effects, it also aids healthy cognition and can even be used to relieve minor aches. In fact, laurel leaf was found to support careful concentration and attention to task performance when it was inhaled. A pilot clinical study found that when eucalyptus was combined with lemon eucalyptus, oregano, peppermint, and rosemary in an oral spray, it reduced the severity of upper respiratory tract infections. A preclinical study found that eucalyptus oil may improve chronic inflammatory airway conditions by reducing toll-like receptor 4 activity in the bronchioles and excess production of airway mucus. And so it's really going to reduce that airway inflammation as well as help us eliminate the mucus that's just reducing the ability to do that oxygen and CO2 exchange in the respiratory tract. Interesting research found that inhaling peppermint for 20 minutes every day for 2 months decreased symptoms of pulmonary tuberculosis and prevented its recurrence. A 2015 study highlighted the usefulness of tea tree essential oil in respiratory tract infections, particularly in relation to colds, flus, and bronchitis. And lemon essential oil has been used with other oils in a nasal spray to improve allergic and non-allergic rhinopathy. Cardamom and ravensara, they're both really high in 1,8-cineol content, so they add to that content in this particular blend, making this a great blend for respiratory health. Deep Blue has been a trusted essential oil blend for topical relief for years. And we've seen professional athletes using it on screens as they're being They're doing their competitions just to get the relief they need to continue on in their competitions. It unites a group of essential oils that are known to contribute to relief when massaged into sore, tired areas of the body. Both Japanese peppermint and peppermint are rich in menthol, which interacts with receptors in the skin to reduce skin temperature and promote pain relief in the underlying tissues. Copaiba is included in the EU Deep Blue blend, which is, well, I feel is a big advantage because preclinical research shows that Copaiba improves the absorption and activity of other lipophilic substances, making it a synergizing essential oil. Helichrysum is a potent oil with a unique composition. It has some constituents in it that you really don't find in other essential oils, including diketones that some experts attribute the anti-inflammatory properties of helichrysum to. Blue tansy contains camozuline, which gives it its characteristic deep blue color. It relieves pain when applied topically because of the camozuline content, along with its myrcene and saponine content. Blue chamomile also contains this constituent, so it will have similar pain relieving properties, and it can help with emotional and physical responses to pain. So, rounding out the blend are star anise, bergamot mint, eucalyptus, tea tree, and just a very small amount of wintergreen. Deep blue works, which is why athletes, weekend warriors, and so many other people rely on it for targeted relief. On Guard is prized by our wellness advocates and customers alike, and even clinicians, because of its abilities to support healthy immune function. It contains essential oils traditionally used to support immune function or inhibit pathogens that may lead to infections that our, our, our immune function, our immune system has not dealt with on its own. A laboratory study showed that the blend can actually reduce influenza infection in cells by preventing the virus from hijacking the cell's genetic information and forcing that cell to produce viral genetic information. A key to this blend is its clove content, which stimulates immune activity by increasing immune cell counts. So you get higher immune cells in the body, which obviously is going to allow us to have better responses to any infections or agents that get inside our body. It also contains essential oils that are known to possess antioxidant properties, so it can provide protection against free radicals. Lastly, it can be used as a surface cleaner, and we do actually have a suite of products that leverage the On Guard for cleansing both surfaces, but also we put it in toothpastes and hand washes and other things to leverage that cleansing activity. Health begins and ends in the gut. So, supporting gut and digestive health is a cornerstone to overall well being. We've talked about the benefits of peppermint to the digestive tract, but Digestin unites peppermint with cardamom, coriander, ginger, caraway, and fennel into a one synergistic blend. Now, when you look at what each individual oil in this blend can do, you can see why it's been designed with this combination. For example, cardamom inhibits both salmonella and campylobacter species bacteria, which are common causes of foodborne infections, and its main constituent, alpha terpinyl acetate, is protective to the lining of the GI tract. Coriander has been used for centuries to support digestion, and preclinical research shows the oil can reduce colitis, ulcer severity, and index. Ginger also has a centuries-long history of use as a digestive aid. The majority of a significant portion of your inflammatory response is actually regulated in the gut, and ginger helps to support a healthy inflammatory response. Caraway contains similar major constituents to spearmint in carvone and limonene, and it has been tested in clinical research with peppermint to treat functional dyspepsia. Um, and I can tell you just from personal experience, caraway with peppermint, where it works very well for that functional dyspepsia. Just this week, I worked with somebody who had that, and they found very quick relief by using that combination. In my opinion, fennel is a sleeper essential oil when it comes to digestion. I love to include it in digestive blends, and preclinical models show it actually is protective of the stomach lining, reduces colon inflammation, and cleanses the digestive tract of pathogens. While a clinical study actually showed it works synergistically with curcumin to reduce irritable bowel syndrome. So this one is the one that, whenever you think of digestive complaints, this one has a lot of different essential oils that are combined to help support any kind of digestive issues that you're having, because we get synergy when we put more than one essential oil together, or additive effects by combining them into one single blend to work towards supporting whatever we're working on at the time. Okay, so I think I have a little bit of time that I can do a brief
Yeah.
Q&A.
Thank you very much, Dr. Scott. I think we got a few questions, quite a lot of questions, but I think um, those been answered by Dr. Browning. Thank you very much for taking the trouble to answer those questions. I think there's a lot of questions here around ingesting essential oils.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the people are asking about how many drops would you use, for example, with Zengest, and
Zengest.
even,
Uh-huh.
yeah, Zengest, or even oregano, for example, and how would you use that to help in terms of the GI tract?
Yeah, so um, there's the amount of drops that you're going to use is really going to depend on the essential oil we're using, right? Because you'll have an oregano that would be more potent than a copaiba or a lavender essential oil. And so, because of the potency differences, we can use less of it and get the effects that we desire. In my opinion, the best way to ingest an essential oil is going to be inside a soft gel or a capsule. And the reason for that is it's going to give us better delivery where we want the essential oils delivered, and that's going to have better systemic bioavailability. If we put it just in water or something like that, it's going to make contact with the esophagus and the stomach as it comes down. Some of it will be destroyed in the stomach acid, but if you have it in a capsule, it's going to get through all of that area and then start to release in the small intestine, which it's designed. That's where these lipophilic substances are best absorbed in the GI tract. So that's first a good tip. We have a lot of our own soft gels, um, but if you're making your own capsules, you can get empty vegetable capsules. You put the drops of the essential oil in first, and then I fill the rest of the capsule with a fatty oil like MCT oil, olive oil, avocado oil, some fatty oil like that, because two reasons. That is going to help maintain the capsule integrity so that the essential oils might not degrade it as it's before it's supposed to, but it also improves bioavailability. That fatty oil kind of acts like a delivery method for the oil. So I know that's kind of a long introduction to now get to the answer, but if you're going to use like a Zengest, many people will find that just a couple of drops a few times a day is going to work for that. If you're looking at the oregano, you can use maybe one or two drops, and it may work just a couple times a day because, as I said, it's going to have that higher potency. It all is going to really depend on what you're trying to attack at the time or what you're trying to solve. But the that's just some general guidance.
Mm. Just one question. Could Zengest be useful in prophylaxis when traveling to countries prone to food and water poisoning? Um,
Yes, you can actually use it prophylactically like that. I personally do when I'm traveling to a foreign country, especially if it's one that I'm not too certain about the maybe the water and food that's going to be there. Then I will start taking that a couple of days before I travel, and so that I'm prepared and defended, protected.
just want to say that even me, when I'm traveling, there's two essential at least I carry with me, if not three. One is On God, definitely this time with the COVID situation, etc. And then Zengest with the digestive issues. These are the two ones which is non-negotiable for me. And of course, sometimes I do carry the Deep Blue just because if you have like, I do a lot of hiking. So that is always, I carry that with me. But definitely you can see later on some of the capsules that doTERRA has. People, if they want to get those as well, that's great. But some really good info here, Dr. Scott. I think we'll if you permit, I'll allow now Dr. Brannick to do her presentation, yeah, and then we can take some further questions later on. Thank you very much, Dr. Scott.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation, and I apologize. I'm in clinic today, so you can see I've been seeing patients all morning, and then this afternoon I've got more patients scheduled. So I'm a little bit more casual today than usually I am for these meetings, but grateful to be invited to this. Let me just give you a quick background. I'll see if I can share my, let's see, my screen here. There we go. And share. Do we see my slide coming up there? That work? All right, great.
Yeah, that's working.
Good, good. So I'm a family physician, trained at University of Arizona in Tucson, and I'm an integrative family physician. I grew up kind of internationally and spent some time in Europe, the Middle East, and the East in Hong Kong. And so my family gathered our medical culture from lots of other cultures than just what we typically see in the US. And so when I went to medical school in the 90s, I was quite concerned that I was seeing a very narrow view of health and wellness, knowing that we saw for our own health chiropractors and naturopaths and acupuncturists, et cetera. I realized that pharmacotherapy and surgery is not the only path, and wanted to know more, and so began looking at other opportunities for learning about some of the amazing things that Scott has told you about already. Interested in herbals as well as energy work, and so sought out some extra education in those things. Opened up a practice, an integrative family medicine practice, and then joined doTERRA full-time about 8 years ago. Was thrilled to meet Dr. Scott Johnson here, who has been a brilliant mind that I refer to and ask questions to commonly, as you've already heard him speak about what he knows about essential oils. That knowledge, he's just barely scratched the surface for you all. He could go on for an 8-hour lecture without blinking an eye with what he knows. And so I'm grateful to be working with Scott and the information that he has. I wanted to just talk a little bit at a higher level, rather than give you maybe just application after application of the oils. Those will come with time. Scott gave you a great example of some common oils that we use, but we have a large amount of oils, and to go into all of those oils would be rather exhaustive. I wanted to talk about maybe what differentiates us from other essential oil companies out there, and why you should be very selective medically when using essential oils. So let me see if I can advance my slide here. There we go. So I want to talk about safe and effective, how important it is that we're using oils that are safe and we're using oils that are effective, and then give you some guidance as far as usage. There's been a lot of questions about how many drops and how much of this and how much of that, and I'll give you some practical application as to how you might use these oils in a medicinal way. And I want to use the example of water. We all know that water's good for us. I've got my water right here. I drink it throughout the day. But water, even though it's amazing for us, we do have to be careful about water. To Riyadh, your point earlier, sometimes you travel to a country and the water isn't really reliable because it may not be pure, right? And so you have to be a little bit careful with this. And so purity, when it comes to water, there's a difference in the waters we might drink. Gutter water, of course, we wouldn't take a glass and scoop some of that up and say, oh, this is water, so it's good for me. Even tap water in certain countries we wouldn't use, but glacier water that's closest to the source of water is probably some of the most pure water on the planet. So again, water's important, but purity of water is very, very important. So sadly, there's data out there. This is from the National Center for Natural Products Research, and they published an article recently in 2021 that shows over 66% of lavender essential oil products on the market today are adulterated in some way or are of poor quality. Now, lavender oil is not a very expensive oil. And so as you go up the chain of expensive oils, imagine how much more adulteration you get from that. As a matter of fact, this article, when you read it, it actually says it perhaps is up to 90% of all lavender oil in the market is adulterated or of poor quality in some way. And that is shocking and concerning. Some other data that's come out, this is Dr. Prabodh Satyal, who says that 12 times more bergamot oil is sold than can be produced, which is also scary because you realize, so if we're selling, if the world is selling more bergamot oil than can possibly be produced, it means that largely the oil that's being sold on the market today is a synthetic oil. And then, of course, this is again, Dr. Prabodh Satyal. Research shows that up to 80% of essential oils on the market today are adulterated in some way. I will tell you, we recently did a study where we looked at birch oil. Birch oil is kind of a highly sought after oil. It has amazing anti-inflammatory properties to it, with it being 99% some chemical compound called methyl salicylate. So birch oil is amazing. We bought birch oil from all the vendors that we could find it from, and nearly 100% of the birch oil was either completely synthetic or largely adulterated by using aspirin and turning it back into methyl salicylate. And so quite concerning when someone says, oh, you should just use birch oil for that. Well, largely it's going to be synthetic birch oil and not the real thing. The next most important concept is this concept of consistency, making sure that we have a consistent product time after time. Now, in the natural space, that becomes somewhat difficult because plants, as we all know, produce varying amount of chemistry based upon the environment that they're given. Amount of sunlight during that growing season, the amount of water during that growing season, the amount of nutrients available during that growing season changes how much chemistry you have within the plant. So if we look at the consistency, I use the example, going back to our water example, this is the Mississippi River. So one of the largest rivers in the United States, and this is near Lake Itasca. This is the headwaters of the Mississippi River. If you were to take water out of here, it is fairly clean and pure. That same river, further down where it runs in the Missouri River, you can see those two rivers running together. That same water is no longer pure. Now we have inconsistency of that same water because of what's happening further downstream. So our essential oils, we know that consistency and purity are required if you want to get reproducible outcomes. So let me just show you some data here real quick on our consistency. Now, the only way that we are able to do this is because we are the largest essential oil company in the world, which means that we have availability to gain essential oils from a number of farmers. We deal first with farmers. We don't deal with many middlemen. And we want to make sure that we're getting this from many places so that then we can blend, in this case, eucalyptus radiata, to have a consistent amount of 1,8 cineol. So we get pure oil, eucalyptus radiata from, for instance, Australia, and we'll get some pure eucalyptus radiata oil from Kenya. And then we can blend those batches of oil to be consistent in the amount of 1,8 cineol. So you can see here the deviation year over year over year of our, or batch over batch, of our 1,8 cineol within eucalyptus radiata is 2.42%. That is tighter control than pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals allow for 5% variation from batch to batch, which now, when you look at some of the current research, the data tells us it's somewhere now between 10 and 12% variation from batch to batch and still considered a pure medication. So tighter control. A couple of other examples. Lemongrass. We know that geraniol is one of the main chemical constituents of lemongrass. And so we, over batch to batch, our geraniol content deviates 2.29%. We sell a lot of peppermint. Peppermint's a very common essential oil, so you can see how many batches we've studied this, 2.016%. And those examples go on and on. Triacetamide and cassia, 1.67%. Limonene and grapefruit. We've already talked about lemon oil and limonene, but this is the limonene found in our grapefruit, 1.17%. So the benefit of having consistent chemistry, here's our linalool in lavender, 1.5%. The benefit of having consistency in chemistry means that you get consistency in outcomes. And without consistency, you can't dose correctly, you can't use oil safety, and you can't evaluate efficacy. One of the things that we're very passionate about is that as people publish essential oil research articles, that they put at the beginning of the article the chemotype and the chemistry of the oil that they studied, so that it can be determined, was this a good quality oil that you studied, or was this not a good quality oil that you studied? I'll give the example of lavender, since that was my last slide there, and sleep. You can find numerous articles that lavender is helpful for sleep, patients with insomnia, and particularly they like to study it in hospital systems. But you can find a few articles out there that say, well, we studied it and it had no effect at all on sleep. The challenge is that neither article indicated how pure and consistent of an essential oil they were using. So you may have a lavender oil that had 4% linalool in it, and another time have a lavender oil that was studied that had 50% linalool in it. Obviously, those two are going to give you a different outcome in your clinical research. And so because we have consistency of chemistry, our research and our effect can be found consistent over and over and over again. So going back to our conversation about water, this is about pharmacokinetics. So if we look at water, for us as adults, women should be drinking about 3 liters of water per day, men about 4 liters of water per day. But if we go up to 5 liters of water consumed in less than 4 hours, that can give us water intoxication, and that can kill an individual. We dilute out those electrolytes. Those electrolytes keep the muscles running. Heart is a muscle, and the heart can stop. And there's plenty of research out there indicating athletes, and particularly those involved in military, they overhydrate, and it actually does cause their heart to stop. So getting the right amount in and giving the appropriate amount of time for that chemistry, in this case water, to leave the system is important. Sadly, when we look at research, there's not a lot of research in pharmacokinetics. So doTERRA has made some recommendations. So topical, we cannot yet, the science isn't there yet to determine what is the pharmacokinetics of a topical use of essential oil. So we have some recommendations that we make just based on experience and science, and it has to do with penetration versus permeation. Penetration, of course, meaning, does it get into the skin? Essential oils, because they are lipid soluble or hydrophobic, essential oils have a very easy time penetrating the skin. When you look at permeation, it's how much gets into the system from that penetration, how much gets into the body. And we've done some studies in which we do find that essential oils put on topically do get into the system overall. As a matter of fact, I was recently looking at a study that indicated for the chemistry that we put on our skin, this was all chemistry, not just essential oils, we absorb on average about 64% of that chemistry, and it gets into the bloodstream. In certain areas of the body, including the axilla and the groin, that chemistry or that amount jumps up to almost 100%. And so when we think about some of the chemistry that we put under our arms every day, and we're absorbing 100% of that and getting into the bloodstream, we have to make some very good choices in what that chemistry is going to be, considering that it's going to get into the bloodstream and go around the system very easily. So when it comes to topical application of oils, and there was some questions about this earlier as Scott was presenting, but we want to start with about 1 to 2 drops. That's pretty important that we start with a low dose because they're powerful and we do absorb them very easily. You can increase, if you need to, up to 2 to 3 drops every 4 to 6 hours. And you can see here I put a QR code for a topical use ebook that we have. If you're interested, you can take a look at that ebook, and it will give you some further recommendations for that. When we diffuse an essential oil, we now know even that diffusion gets into the bloodstream. One of the reasons I like diffusion is when I'm dealing with patients that have problems with mental health challenges, diffusion is one of the quickest ways to affect mood. Because many of these molecules are small enough to cross the blood-brain barrier, I will have them diffuse some essential oils to change that mood, to change that mindset. And it works very, very quickly for them. Depending upon the size of the room or the size of the environment also depends upon how much you want to diffuse. And we have various diffusers that we recommend. In a car, you can diffuse in a car. There's a small diffuser called a pilot diffuser, and using just 2 to 3 drops of oil in that. If you have a moderate sized room, you can use a larger diffuser, and that's about 6 to 10 drops. And then if you have a very large room, like for instance, in my home, my kitchen, dining room, and living room are all one large room, you can use a large diffuser with 10 to 15 drops of that. So again, a common recommendation for diffusion is 2 to 3 drops every 4 to 6 hours, particularly if you're diffusing at night. You put 2 to 3 drops in your diffuser, close your bedroom door, and that should be about enough for you. Again, a link there, a QR code to a diffusing ebook that's been written to give you some other recommendations about what oils you might diffuse and how you might utilize those for yourself and your patients. And then lastly, there's this internal usage conversation. This is much of what Scott was referring to. And we have to be aware of first pass metabolism. We have the system that when we take something internally, the liver takes a large percentage of that and gets rid of it very quickly. So depending upon what I'm trying to accomplish with an individual, I may have them not take it internally, but actually put it under the tongue to get more of that chemistry in the bloodstream and not have first pass metabolism take that out of the system. So when you're talking about internal usage of oil, starting with 1 to 2 drops, but you can go to 2 to 3 drops of any one oil every 4 to 6 hours. Now, keep in mind, you can use more than one oil every 4 to 6 hours. So for instance, I have grapefruit in my water today, and I've taken some frankincense oil earlier today. At the same time, I was taking my grapefruit oil. The chemistry within there is different enough that I'm not concerned about overwhelming the system. When I first started using essential oils in my practice, about 12 years ago, 13 years ago now, I was reading some literature and became very concerned about, well, what if I overwhelm the filtering systems of the body, the liver and kidneys? And so when I began first recommending essential oils internally, I would draw a lot of blood work on those patients to determine, are the kidneys handling this, are the liver handling this? And found over a few years of doing that I didn't have a single patient that with a reasonable use of essential oil had their kidney function struggle or their liver function struggle. And so I have now stopped really drawing labs on individuals unless they came in with some liver challenges or kidney problems, and we began using the essential oils on them. So, but most healthy individuals that walk through your door you don't really need to get labs on. Now, if you would like to, of course, that's what I did to just assure myself that these were safe. But now, after years of doing this, I rarely draw those to make sure kidneys and liver is handling this, unless, again, they've come in with that problem themselves. Now, one of the concerns that we had is looking at the literature, there's a lot of conversation about internal use of essential oils, but no one had done pharmacokinetics on these oils. And we began looking at this, trying to determine, well, how is it that we're studying these, but we don't know pharmacokinetics? And so doTERRA, as far as I know, and Scott, you correct me if I'm wrong, is one of the only companies that's doing pharmacokinetic research on essential oils. And so we looked at limonene here. You can see this slide here that talks about lime. Oops, sorry, I'll go back. Oh, no, I'm going back, I'm going forward too much. This is linalool within our lavender oil, and you can see that the half-life of linalool is about 5 or 6 hours. And so that being said, we now know that if you're going to be giving linalool internally or lavender oil internally, it should be dosed probably about 2 times a day, can be dosed 3 times a day or so. When we look at other oils, so for instance, this is an interesting one. This is our frankincense oil. We looked at 2 things within that. One was our limonene, and then one was our alpha-pinene. You can see this nice curve of alpha-pinene starting at 0, and we very quickly clear alpha-pinene. But look at the limonene concentration. It didn't start at 0. And so we began looking at this research going, well, what in the world is going on here? We had these individuals do a washout period of essential oils so that we knew they didn't have any essential oils to begin with. But what is happening is that we consume enough foods that contain limonene compounds that we didn't start at 0 for this. And so we started at 0.08 or a little bit higher, took the frankincense in, look at that peak for limonene, and then saw that decrease. But then you see that little bump there around 6 hours out, 5 or 6 hours out. That was lunchtime for our participants. They consumed something else that had some limonene in it, which caused another little bump in that before it went down even more. And so you can see some of these studies, we learned some things that we didn't know before, which is most people run around with some limonene in the system. But you can see, again, the half-life there of limonene being very different within the same oil of the half-life of alpha-pinene and how quickly we clear that. So that was our frankincense. And then, of course, we have our cinnamon bark here. You can see cinnamaldehyde and cinnamon bark we clear very quickly. The half-life of cinnamaldehyde is a little over an hour, which means that about every 4.5 hours, you can take another dose of cinnamon bark and not overwhelm the system. Now, here's what I love about that. I use cinnamon bark oil for patients that are dealing with blood sugar challenges because we know that cinnamaldehyde helps to lower blood sugars. So knowing the half-life of this, I'm comfortable telling patients you can use cinnamon bark 3 times a day with your meals to help control your blood sugar because the pharmacokinetic data supports a 3-time-a-day dosing model for that. So that's our cinnamon bark. I guess, at the end of the day, when we're first starting to get used to essential oils, I'm a fan of start low and go slow. I told you that some of my training was in herbals before I began learning about essential oils, and herbals require a large amount to get an effect. Essential oils are very concentrated chemistry, very focused chemistry, and so therefore it doesn't require nearly as much as it does within herbal compounds to get the same effect. And so, for instance, there's been a comparison between lavender oil, peppermint oil and peppermint tea. The amount of menthol in a drop of peppermint oil is about equivalent to the amount of menthol in 25 cups of peppermint tea. So dry compound versus oil compound, that chemistry is very concentrated. And so starting low and going slow is not a bad plan. Saying, let's start with 1 to 2 drops. Let's see, did it get the effect that we were needing? If not, we can go up to 2 to 3 drops. And so you can just increase slowly over time and see where you get with your recommendations and the benefit that the patients are receiving from that. So with that, I again have some time for questions, and Scott, maybe you can handle some of the questions as well, but I just wanted to leave you with that concept of my confidence in doTERRA essential oils has everything to do with the science company that doTERRA is. We really do try to follow the science and improve the science, whereas I don't know of any other company out there that is doing the science that we're doing. We want to know, how do they work? What is the appropriate dosage? How do we get consistency of product so that you can get the same results time after time after time? And I am just very appreciative of the amount of science that doTERRA does and that we are married to it. We change products actually as new science comes out, and we update products so that you are getting the best and the most recent science that's available to help us with our usage of essential oils. So with that, we'll leave it to some questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Branick. I think you blew up our mind just in those 30 minutes. I think that was amazing. Can you just tell us a little bit more about what the CTPG certification means for doTERRA? Because somebody asked if it is organic or not.
That's a great question. So CPTG, so it's Certified Pure Tested Grade, is what that stands for, and this is is used by doTERRA because there is no great standard outside of doTERRA. People have often said, "Well, that's an internal standard." It is. It is an internal standard. doTERRA created that standard because as we looked at other standards out there, so for instance, the ISO standards for lavender, a lavender oil that has 20% linalool and a lavender oil that has 57% linalool could still be considered a lavender oil. That variation is double, right? 20 to 57%, almost triple the amount of linalool in it. And so for doTERRA, we said those standards are not good enough. We need to have a standard that we will live by. And so they created this CPTG, Certified Pure Tested Grade standard, that all of our oils must measure against. Now, I will tell you, early on in my experience with doTERRA, as I said on the medical advisory board, Melissa oil is a big seller for doTERRA. It was a very big seller. They made a lot of money off of Melissa oil because it is an incredible oil. However, one year there was a ton of rain in Bulgaria where we grow Melissa oil. And because of all of that rain, we actually had a change in the chemistry of the oil. Because there wasn't enough chemistry of the oil, we knew that it was not a therapeutic oil anymore. Now, many of our customers would never know that because they would smell it and it would smell the same. But because it didn't meet our standards of Certified Pure Tested Grade, we had to tell our customers and wellness advocates that we will not have Melissa oil available to you this year. And the company took a financial hit because of that, but it was the right thing to do because it did not measure up to our own internal standards. And so CPTG is kind of the measuring stick that we hold ourselves to because there isn't an outside external measuring stick that makes any sense to hold yourself to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think talking about Melissa, Dr. Branick, this is the oil that I have always in my house now. When my wife was really sick and we had this 100 days of cough in England, and we were trying everything, the ginger, everything, it wasn't working. And I was using kinesiology and I tested with kinesiology and that Melissa came. I said, okay, the first thing I did, I went in the papers and looked at Melissa. It just blew my mind. And what it does with biofilm in the body was amazing. And the moment I gave her that, the next day, it's like nothing happened. The cough really, what it's all we needed is to get through that biofilm, and that Melissa did that. So I'm really grateful that, Melissa I'm glad you mentioned that, Melissa. It's expensive oil, but
Yeah,
amazing oil. But
incredibly powerful. Yeah.
very powerful. There's one question about mixing honey with essential oil. Does it decrease its potency?
And Scott, you can comment on this too, but I've found that when you mix oils with other things, it really doesn't decrease the potency. I've used honey, particularly with children that we have an essential oil that maybe they don't like the taste of very much. We'll mix it with some honey and it's just as effective for them. So, Scott, your recommendation?
Yeah, honey is actually a good delivery method for kids when you need to do that. And I've used it both topically when you use like a medicinal manuka honey on a wound, and mixing it for them to use internally, like if they have a cough or something.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
And,
We
and,
we
and
have we have bees at our house, and so we've got a hive, and so we use our own honey, and we actually have our children take honey in a small amount every day just because of the medicinal benefits of honey as well. So I think it's a great one because you get the benefit of the honey, raw, unfiltered honey, and you get the benefit of the oil together. So yeah.
Debbie Clark is saying, I'm blown away by this presentation. I told you you'll be blown away. Matt did tell you that you will be blown away by this presentation. And we are really grateful for this. It's amazing. The thing about you said earlier, Dr. Scott, was MCT oil. And can you put that in those caps, and then the MCT oil that doTERRA sell? So you can put that in caps and with essential oil, and you can ingest it. That should be all right, yeah?
So I'm going to go a little off book here,
Yeah,
but we do have a fractionated coconut oil, which
yeah,
is
you
somewhat
do, yeah.
similar to MCT oil, and we don't advertise it as something that you can ingest. However, I have confirmed with our sourcing partners and with our spec that it is actually a food grade FCO that we use. So you can add it to your capsules and do that. It's just not something that we advertise
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. Great, guys. Any other question before I pass on to Matt? I think Matt has something to blow our mind even more. I know because there's a lot of questions. We can't cover everything tonight. It takes a few years to learn all of this stuff, but Matt has something to tell us.
Yeah, does that mean it's my turn?
I think so.
Oh, well, first of all, I just want to thank Dr. Brannick Riggs and Dr. Johnson. I love feeling like I'm the most simple mind in the room. That's the best place to be. After 12 years of using these essential oils for my personal experience and with clients and customers, I feel like I have, thousands of testimonials and so much empirical and like observational data, but rarely do I get to see into the mind of a physician or someone who really understands the how it's working. So I know that it works, right? Having seen all of these examples around me, but understanding why and how is so valuable. And I'm so grateful for doTERRA and the science first approach. More doctors, clinics, hospitals that I'm aware of use this brand than any other brand of essential oils. And I think it's because of that consistency and the purity. So thank you guys for all that you do. Thank you for providing this education. I want to know in the chat, those of you who have received this value, this is not designed to be a sales call today, but I want to know if you are okay if you give me permission to share a special promotion that we have available for all of you today. So I want to make sure I get permission because this is an education first call. D says definitely. Georgia says yes. Sam says yes, please. Okay. So this is a special thing that we usually don't have access to. Again, this just because of the group of individuals that are on this call here today, we were able to talk to doTERRA and to negotiate and get a very great promotion. So there's an essential oil specialist certification that doTERRA offers, $97 US, about the same in pounds, I would imagine. And this certification, this program online, this course is a very complete introduction. And honestly, as you guys were going through and a lot of people were asking questions in the chat, I was thinking, wow, that's covered in the course, that's covered in the course, that's covered in the course. So not only does it go through the basics of essential oils, where they come, how they're distilled, and all of that, but we go into the chemistry of essential oils. So you can see all of the different modules here, going from chemistry to the importance of testing and purity, different methods of use, and then some of the most commonly used oils, practical applications. And this is all found in this essential oil certification, which is normally $97, but we are able to get access to for free for this group. And so for anyone who, after going through this training, and I guess one other thing I want to mention is, for anyone who purchases a kit of essential oils, you're going to get this course for free, the certification. And also, we didn't have the chance to really introduce Paulette, but Paulette is also a functional medical coach, partnered with Riyadh, and she's also done, leadership coaching through John Maxwell, and has had a lot of success in the world of essential oils in doTERRA. And anyone who becomes a customer of the essential oils or decides to use these oils in your practice, we have a special WhatsApp group where you'll be able to have access to Paulette, to myself, to answer any questions that you have about the essential oils and the company. And also, she provides continuing education calls on a monthly basis on many topics, from essential oils for hormonal support to essential oils for detox or cleaning your home naturally with essential oils. So we have a lot of team support in these education calls. But what do you need to do in order to get access to that essential oil certification? Really, it's just buying one of the introductory kits of essential oils. You've learned here today about the main essential oils that we sell in these kits. So these are 3 of the most common examples. There are other kits as well. If you go to this link or scan this QR code, you will be going to our team link to sign up as a customer. And again, any purchase of any of the kits that show up there on that link, you can then reach out to me or Paulette. You can get our information through Riyadh, and we will then help you with the promo code to have access to the essential oil certification for free. Okay, so that's the only thing I want to share. That's the full extent. We're not going to do a long sales pitch here today, but if you'd like to become a customer, use these products and then refer them to your customers. We also have a method for you to earn commissions as you refer these products to your customers or clients. So make sure to ask us about that later. But start by just purchasing the products for yourself, experimenting for yourself, and getting your own observational and empirical data as you use them and get results. So you can use this link again, grab a kit, and then make sure to take a screenshot that you can send to us, and we'll get you the promo code for that certification. Okay, that's it for my part. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Matt. I think some people say they've already got a doTERRA kit, but I think this is from the promotion for this team, I think, Matt, isn't it? Because I even had to take the training myself. I never got it for free. But tonight, it's amazing that we are getting this training for free. So I would say make the most of it. I mean, this doesn't happen every day.
That's right. And Kate, who's our contact at corporate, she's allowed us to offer this course for anyone that signs up within 48 hours today. So if you are not yet a customer, this is really for you. It's kind of an extra bonus for you to become a member with doTERRA. So, yep.
All right. Thank you very much for this and for all your generosity. And how much hours is the course? I think you can take that course in a day if you want to, I think, isn't it? If you're really studious about it. That's how I did it. I did it in a few days. But yeah, you could do that. But I think once you get it, you can always refer to the course as well. It's a really good resource. And thank you very much, Dr. Scott, for setting up this course as well. That's a really amazing resource. But again, thank you very much, everybody. If you have any burning questions, feel free to shout. Otherwise, I would like again to thank Dr. Scott and Dr. Brannick for their great support tonight, and especially Matt and Paulette, who made this happen. I hope we can get you in the future, because I know our scientific community have a lot of scientific question in their mind. But I think as doTERRA is evolving, and that's what I'm really happy about this company and excited, is the research that comes. And we know that in the as nutrition therapists, anything that comes from a supplement company which are doing research, it's more valuable. It costs a little bit more. And that's what also doTERRA is all about. It's about that research. I think we should make the most of it for tonight. And I'm very grateful to you guys. Thank you.
Been our pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. We appreciate it. Really, we love and are very passionate about education, both Scott and I. But when we can educate providers, that really gets upstream to where now you all have more knowledge and can go out and help more people with the information that you have now. And so it's really an honor to be excited, or to be invited to speak with providers of care for patients and help you understand how to put a few more things in your quiver as you go out there and take care of folks. So thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. And I think, as you said, Matt, we'll set up a WhatsApp group for those who are interested to further their education in this. And hopefully in the future, we might find some other training for them as they grow with the organization. Thank you again for everything. All right, then, everybody, have a good night. And yes, so for you guys, I think it's lunchtime maybe. So enjoy lunch if you're going to go for lunch. And yeah, so we'll see you everybody soon in the WhatsApp group.
Okay, take care, friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Matt.